the Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Hello and welcome to the Best in the World with Richard Parr. Every week I interview an Olympic champion, a world champion, a former world record holder or a former world number one to find out what they do differently to become the very best in what they do. So they are better than us average Joes at their task at hand. And we cover all kinds of things with these amazing characters. It could be diet tips, it could be things related to nutrition, it could be their routine, it could be rituals, it could be meditation, it could be the location of where they go to train, it could be their family background. We cover all of these different things and more every single Wednesday on iTunes and on Stitcher and at richardparr.net. We've had so many fantastic great guests from all different walks of life and all different sports. And today, for the first time, we're in the world of equestrianism, in fact, eventing. And I had the pleasure of speaking to Lucinda Fredericks. Lucinda Fredericks and her horse, Headley Britannia, became the only horse and person to complete a career Grand Slam at Burleigh Badminton and Kentucky in eventing. It's a really fun chat with Lucinda. We cover all kinds of different things about how she got started in the sport and how she was able to finance it, including how she used to sell cars before she ended up selling horses to help finance her career. She talks about how she was very driven at a very young age in her teens and knowing exactly what she wanted to do in her life. She speaks about her time at the Olympic Games and also the fact that it was only when she was in her 30s that she really became very good at the sport. We talk about her love of her horse, Headley Britannia, and everything related to her and how now other people are using mares in their eventing. And yeah, it's a fun chat with Lucinda. We talk about ambitions, we talk about passion, we talk about falls. There's so much in this amazing chat on today's Best in the World with Richard Parr. Alright, we'll get to it in just a moment, but I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible's one of the leading suppliers of audiobooks in the world. Look, if you're listening to this, you clearly love podcasts, so you're going to love listening to audiobooks just as much. In fact, I'll be surprised if you're not already listening to audiobooks, but if for some reason you're not, check Audible out. I use them myself. Currently listening to Zlatan Ibrahimovic's autobiography on Audible. They are offering a free 30-day trial for the listeners of The Best in the World with Richard Parr, and that includes one free download, so it's worth giving it a go. All you've got to do is go to audibletrial.com/best. All right, get those pens and papers out. Get that notepad on your mobile device. It's audibletrial.com/best. Download a book, give it a go. Let me know what you think on my Twitter at Richard_Parr. I would love to hear from you. Do you know what I love to hear from? Lucinda Fredericks, because she is the best in the world.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Lucinda Fredericks, welcome to the Best in the World. It's so great to have you on the show. Let's start from the very, very beginning. How did you first get interested in horse riding and eventing in particular?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for talking to me and thinking that I'm good enough to come on your show. I was one of those typical little girls who just wanted to ride from, age 3. Didn't really get my own pony till I was 9. And even then, it was some crazy little black pony from the sort of forest in Germany, because my parents were based over there. And he used to bolt everywhere and ditch me and whatever, and I just used to get back on and think that was great. And I think literally from the age of 12, I just loved the cross country. And I think the show jumping would have been a little bit, it wasn't fast and sort of risky enough for me. And certainly the dressage, that sort of came with the package of eventing. It wouldn't have been something I'd wanted to have done as a career. And from sort of 13, 14, I was already working out how on earth I was going to run this as a business, because my parents didn't have any money or farm or facilities. So somehow I had to do it as a business. So I sort of got to 16, did my GCSEs, left school and went straight into working at a couple of different yards through the winter months, sort of October through to January, and just saved money. I worked for a show jumper and I worked for Richard Mead, actually Harry Mead's dad, for sort of 4 months each. And then in the meantime, my horse, I had a horse by then, that we'd sold that little pony and got into another pony and sold that very well and got into a horse. And all young horses, as in I never ever had anything made. And then just started to work out that actually I had to buy and sell something. So I bought and sold cars first. I used to go down to the British car auctions in Aldershot and go and buy a car and sell it for £100 more 2 weeks later. I thought that was great. And then I did the same with horse boxes. And then bought and, took a gamble and I think paid about £1,200 for my first proper horse myself. Managed to sell it, for a good few thousand 9 months later. I thought, right, well, this is the only way I'm going to, live my dream. So my 3 ambitions were to win badminton, win a medal at the Olympics, and make enough money that I could do my passion. So from the age of 13, 14, I knew what I wanted to do. How I was going to do it was going to be a little bit, I had to keep my mind open, put it that way. Mm. And my mum was a very, very good support. She was my groom, which, would have saved me thousands of pounds over the years. And my dad just used to say, well, you can live at home, pay the phone bill, which of course in those days was actually quite a lot because we didn't have mobile phones. And off we went. So, and I was very lucky to have, my grandmother she bought me a horse it was just a failed racehorse actually, and I did well on that at juniors. Never got on the junior team, but I got on the young rider British team, and then got selected for the sort of Barcelona Olympics as a reserve. I was a sort of non-travelling reserve. But by that time, I was always aware that talking to people wherever I was, and just trying to, always be polite and meet as many people as possible. And eventually I just got, 2 or 3 owners who, would send me their horses to produce and sell, horses that needed, to actually be competed. And I had a lovely couple called David and Diana Rickard, who had sort of my first sort of real big winners, like Just Jeremy won the first ever Blenheim actually on my 25th birthday. And then I had a super old man called Peter Pritchard, who gave me a horse that William Funnell had show jumped, and he said, look, it's just not quite good enough, will you event it? So that took me around my first Badminton and Burghley Welton Fair game. So it's just, a lot of it's luck, a lot of it's just sheer determination, dedication, sacrifices, and just, having, if you've got a passion, you just got to follow it and somehow, live your dream really. And I've been extremely lucky to have done that and so far survived. I've had a few near misses on the way, I have to say. Our sport is you've got to be slightly mad to do it. It is risky, very risky, and it's something that if you haven't got, you've got to be a little bit on the edge, I think, to do our sport well. And it's when it goes well or it doesn't go well, you've got to be prepared to bounce back. And, if you do well, you've got to just, milk it. And if you don't, well, you just say, wasn't my day today. I'm fine. The horse is fine. Let's just crack on and go again. But running as a business has been a massive, massive satisfaction and reward for me, because it's all down to hard graft. It's not like I've had, great horses bought for me. Even my best horse, Headley Britannia, came to me to be sold. No one really wanted her, so I competed her for a year, did very well on her, managed to get a very good owner into her, who supported me with her, and then I won enough money to buy her back. And I think another thing that was unusual on my part was I did well in my 20s, and won quite a lot, but was never quite not the big winner. I got placed at Badminton, placed at Burley, in my 20s, and won 3-star and won a number of 2-stars. Then got married, changed my nationality to Australian, and not because it was any easier to get on the team. Actually, it was because I had a Grand Prix, or I'd made a Grand Prix dressage horse, and I couldn't get anywhere with the British, so I swapped to Australia and actually got to some international shows. And then actually got selected to go to the rest of the World Games as a dressage rider in 2002. And my Australian passport, didn't come through in time, so I couldn't actually physically go.
Oh.
And I know. And then I got pregnant. So 2003 was sort of gone. And I had Ellie, who's now 13, in 2003, and then got back. And actually then, I think having a child that late, I had her at 37, actually 38, because she was a week late, so I can blame her for that. I wasn't a very good brood mare, so I think I was lucky to have one. And so it took me a bit of time to recover. But, I had her in October, so I had, a winter to get back. And Headley Britannia was the one horse I got back on, full of confidence, and had an absolute, amazing run with her for the sort of 7 years with her, from sort of 2002 through to 2010, really. So, 8 years with her. And, of course, now I've got all her offspring. Well, I say all. I've got 2 advanced horses who were the only 2, I think they are the only 2 foals ever born while both parents were competing at the Olympics. So Brit and her husband, Jaguar Male was competing on the Swedish show jumping team in Beijing, and Brit was doing her eventing bit for Australia. And we'd already done the embryo transfer. So both Little Britannia and Britannia's Male were born while both parents were at the Olympics. And I don't think that's ever been done before.
Well, that's amazing heritage.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, there's sort of, you sort of slightly take it for granted at the time. And, people come into my house and say, oh my gosh, can I see your medal? And it's like, oh yeah, it's on the mantelpiece. And it's sort of, it all goes in a bit of a blur. It does. And, I watched the Olympics this year in Rio, and I was just thinking, what I would love to be there again. But, I can't. I'm, too old or too crocs, I think, is more to the point. My body can't really cope with any more, big crashes and everything. So I've got to just be a little bit more careful. I will run these 2 at advanced level this year and 3-star level. But it takes an awful lot of sacrifice and discipline, with whether it's, I never dieted. I was lucky. I didn't have to. But we did work hard on fitness, and generally I didn't do anything particularly extra. I did run. in the sort of lead up for the sort of 6 months in the lead up to each Olympics. And I didn't do it when I was younger. I didn't seem to have to, but I certainly had to work harder as I got into my 40s, and having had a child, I had to work harder to be, to be fit enough and strong enough. And nowadays I think the personal trainers are very, very much more knowledgeable than they used to be, and I think now you can, everything's just gone up a level, and the athletes have to work just as hard. There are no shortcuts at all, and I think that's with any sport. Even if you do everything perfectly, you probably might not win at the end of the game. And there is a little bit of luck involved as well, especially with the horses, you see, because you can be absolutely fantastic, and then something can happen to the horse, and it can wake up with a bruise on its foot, or a cough, or a cold, or a rub somewhere, or an infection in its leg, anything, and you hear all, real hard luck stories. I think there was one last year in Rio where one of the New Zealand horses caught its mouth on something on the door and ripped its mouth and couldn't compete, and it was probably one of the favourites to have won a medal.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
More great knowledge from Lucinda coming up in just a moment, but I want to tell you that today's show is also brought to you by the breakfast show Sportacino. It's a project I'm personally involved with. We broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope every single weekday morning from 8 GMT. If I could ask you to do one thing, it would be go to facebook.com/Sportacino. If you don't know how to spell it, it's SPORTUCCINO. So facebook.com/Sportacino and like the page. Watch the show and let me know what you think. Is there anything you'd like to see in the show? Is there anything you really enjoy about the show? Get involved in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. So that is today's joint sponsor of The Best in the World. All right, let's get back to the chat with Lucinda Fredericks.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Now, you mentioned your success with Headley Britannia. What was it about this horse and your relationship with her that made you both so successful?
Probably because she was sort of too small, like wrong size, wrong sex, wrong colour. No one wants a chestnut mare that, doesn't technically isn't particularly correct. So she didn't jump classically. She didn't move particularly well. She wasn't massively, she wasn't beautiful. She wasn't ugly, but she was just correct without being outstanding in any way. But she had this massive heart, and we just both wanted to win so much, and we managed to work together and train together. And it's unusual, it doesn't happen that often. A lot of people have amazing horses, and many, many amazing horses. I didn't. I ended up with, I did have 2 or 3 other amazing horses, but they weren't sound, as in, they would hurt themselves. The conformation of the horse is hugely important. If they haven't got strong enough legs or strong enough feet, or a weakness in their actual makeup, then that's an uphill battle, and you get horses that would win 1 4-star and don't get seen again, or they can be amazingly sound all their lives and not actually be quite good enough. And I was extremely lucky with Brit that she was not only tough and sound, but she had this incredible will to win. And being a mare, they're just a little brighter. And if they're on your side, oh my gosh, do they try for you? And I think Brit's done an amazing job to encourage people to try harder with the mares. 10 years ago, people would hardly even look at a mare. And now you go to the young horse classes around the world championships, and most of the horses are mares or stallions.
Oh, wow.
There are very few, I know. So in, 5 years' time, there'll be even more mares on the scene. And I think Headley Britannia really, really helped that. I think, she was great for that.
It's great that she's inspired this. So together you won Burghley, you won Badminton, you won Kentucky, completing the Grand Slam. You got silver medal in the Olympics. Out of all of them, what was your favourite victory together?
She won the Hickstead Eventing Derby as well.
Well, there's so many more things you won as well. I'm just listing some of the highlights.
Well, that was quite good because I won a car that day. That was really cool. And I think probably Kentucky. I know you think, oh gosh, what about badminton? But actually, she won badminton from the front, which made that extra special. So she won. I think she's one of the very, very, very few horses, if not the only one. I think there's only been one other recently who's actually won it from the first day, e.g. leading on the first day and holding their lead throughout the time. The only reason badminton wasn't my favourite was because I actually had a show jump down, but was ahead of the game, and the ground was very, very hard, so I didn't actually enjoy it. Burghley, I came from second to win, so therefore I won it because Andrew Roy had rails down, and that's not quite the same. And then Kentucky, she was fantastic. A little bit too feisty on the cross country, but I probably had the most exhilarating 5 minutes of my life riding her because I was down on the clock at 6 minutes and I managed to make the time, and it was just amazing. So I would have said, yep, Kentucky was the best one. Each event has its special memories, and I have very many of them. But the best memory is, coming home with a sound horse. There's no point going out and winning and then not coming out again. And Brit went to Kentucky and then she came back again, after that. And she went to the Open Championships at Gatcombe and was placed there. And then she had another embryo transfer. And then, to be fair, I was very fussy where I would actually run the horse cross country. I'd gone to Germany, to Lemoulen, and led the dressage and didn't like the ground. The ground was rough and hard. And I went, sorry, I'm going to drive all the way home having done the dressage test. I did that the same I went to Poland. Didn't like the ground. She didn't like hard ground, and I think that's one of the reasons why she survived as long as she did, because she had to work probably double as hard as most of the other horses on the circuit because she was little and short striding, and she had to try really hard to do it all. So, for me, out of nearly all the horses that have been successful in their sports, she would be one of the ones that had to, wasn't natural and had to really try. There have been more brilliant horses than her, but she would have done it through, sheer guts and determination. And I, will always respect her for that. And I've been extremely lucky that she, was a part of what made my career. She made my business, she made my career, she made my name. So, I couldn't be more thankful to her. I know we did it together, but yeah, I will always be grateful to her.
Yeah, an amazing team. So just give us an idea of what a typical day together would be like, what time you'd get up, how often you'd feed her. Just give us a brief overview of a typical day.
Are we talking about
together.
my horse or my daughter?
Talk about your horse. We can talk about your daughter as well, because it's all part of your life. Tell us when you feed your horse and your daughter.
No, life's a bit different now. Priorities have slightly changed. And it is purely now about running it as a business. I've got, to get Eddie through school for the next 6 years. And in the old days, up till about 4 years ago, I would just go out. I'd take Eddie to school, and I would go out and I would ride until I finished. Literally, just ride. And I would like to ride sort of 8-10 horses a day. The more the merrier. It's just like, the more time I could spend in the saddle, the happier I was. And then I would come back in, going early from school, and then it was just sort of more maintaining. I did a lot of teaching. We have a lot of working pupils here, or have done over the years. And actually, we had Alex Watien, who's a top Chinese rider. He was based here for a number of years, so we trained him, and it's just every day is different. There's never, the routine is the fact that the horses, I've got about 15 now, that are in my care. The horses have to be done every day. They get work 6 days a week, and then you just spend time training. Sometimes training at home, sometimes going to team training. I've been very, very lucky to have some amazing sponsors over the years. And now my main one's, Pure Feed, look after all my team of horses. And, I've been lucky to have, whether it's, a Devigo saddle sponsor or Westgate, I've got lots of littler sponsors, and I'm very lucky. But you've got to work hard at keeping them and keeping your owners. My owners have been, it's hard for owners. They put an awful lot of money into it, and then, they can have more disappointment than the rider. The rider will always get onto another horse, but, the owners, if they've got one horse or two horses or 5 horses, it goes wrong more times than it goes right. So, you've got to look after them. You've got to have a massive team of, whether it's, I have a secretary, I have a marketing girl, I have a groundsman, I've got pupils, I've got head girls, I've got 2 other riders based with me, Rebecca Howard from Canada, and Kelly McCarthy Maine, they're based here. So, we all work together and help we don't train each other at all, but we, bounce ideas off each other. I'll build an exercise in the arena and they'll use it, and vice versa. And it's nice to have that. I wouldn't want to do it on my own. I think it's a very sociable, it can be a very sociable sport. But now, my priorities have changed, and I want to spend more time at home. I want to spend as much time as I can with my daughter. I like to go and watch her play netball and hockey at the weekends. I will always try, if I'm going to an event, to say, can I have early times, please? So that then I can I don't mind getting up early in the morning at all. And I would want, to get back home, and at least I would drive further and get up earlier and make sure I get back home so that I can, spend that quality time with my family, which is really, really important. But I'm 51. I don't want to be away from home too much. When you're younger, and it's completely, your obsession and your life and your dream, and you've got aims to meet, and your ambitions to get to, and money. The money side, has always been important to me. I've had to earn a living from it. And I'm very lucky that, Brit won an awful lot for us. I was, clever enough to, clever enough, smart enough, wise enough, I think, from a young age to actually, say yes to selling horses that a lot of other people would have kept. But, it took me a long time to get on a team because I had to sell a lot of good horses to get the business up and going and to keep living. Because, I like to live I like to live well. I like to live comfortably, but you can't live comfortably unless you're going to work hard, or unless it's all given to you on a plate, which it wasn't at all for me. I think I would have been one of the very, very, very few riders. I think there was another guy called Owen Moore and myself who were literally at the top of our game, sort of early in like 2002. Was that 2002? No, sort of late 90s. Mid 90s when we were sort of he had a lovely mare called Locomotion and I was sort of Arctic Goose, just Jeremy time, and we were about the only two that were still renting, and I rented all my life up until from literally the age of my dad being in the army in Germany renting army boxes to 2000 when we bought Roseglass where I am now.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that's it really.
Absolutely an amazing story, Lucinda. It's been so great to hear from you. Just before we go, I want to let you get back to Ellie and spend more time with her. But just before you go, can you just tell us how we can continue to follow your journey through your website or any social media links, please?
Yep, I have a wonderful marketing girl called Emma Charlton and my secretary, Deb Faulkner. And if you just go to basically Lucinda Fredericks Equestrian, you can get all the information there. So we do stallion services with my stallion, Headley Britannia's son, who has had about, 45 foals already, and he's only just turning 9. And I've got... Emma does sort of Twitter and Facebook. But if you go to Lucinda Fredericks Equestrian, you can suss it all out there. And I'd love to hear from anybody who's got any questions or wants to ask me anything. I'm very, very happy to, get back and give anybody any information, even if it's just a question about their horse or whatever. Always very happy to, share my views or try and give advice. All right.
Wonderful. Well, we'll put all of those details in the description page of this podcast. Make sure we've got the right social media links there as well. And I wonder if back in the day you bumped into my uncle at that Aldershot auction when you were buying and selling cars.
Oh, gosh.
All those many years ago. Well, Lucinda, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you for being on the show and thank you for being the best in the world.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much indeed.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Really good to learn from Lucinda there, and we will be back in the stables again, so to speak, in a few weeks' time when I'll be interviewing the team jumping gold medalists from the 2004 and 2008 Olympics, Beezy Madden. It's a great chat with her. Stay tuned to my Twitter page at Richard_Parr. And also our Facebook page, facebook.com/Best in the World with Richard Parr, to find out when that show will come out. If you've enjoyed this show, but also want to learn from other great Olympic and world champions, go back and listen to a few of them. We've had so many fantastic guests on the show. I can't list them all, but we've had Veronica Campbell-Brown, for example. We've had Stephen Hendry, the snooker champion. We've had David Campese. We've had Alfonso Cunningham, Paralympic champion. We've had so many amazing guests on The Best in the World, and we've got so many more to come. We're out every single Wednesday on iTunes and Stitcher. If I could ask you to do one favour related to our show, please go to iTunes, subscribe to our show, and give us a rating and review. It really matters a lot. All right, I'll be back with you next Wednesday on The Best in the World with Richard Parr. But until then, have a great week. Take care.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.